I'm Kevin Rinke, and I'd like to welcome you to Beyond the Echo. I ran for governor in Michigan. After losing that election, my desire to look at issues that are important to the state or the country grew. There is so much static. There are so many opinions. Our news stations have gotten to the point where we don't know what news is anymore. Where do you go to get real facts? This is about real perspective for you. Beyond the Echo will cut through all the smoke, all the opinions. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about the issues and what are real. Hello, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Echo. I'm Kevin Rinke, and it's my pleasure today to interview our second Secretary of State candidate, Tony Forlini, who is the clerk for Macomb County. And Tony, welcome to Beyond the Echo today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming up. It's an interesting time, once again, in Michigan, looking at 2026. And you've got a crowded field for Secretary of State.
Well, there's a few people. There's four of us that are officially in, and we'll see what happens come convention time if all four are still going to be there.
Yeah, well, I hope that there's not. I think that there's 77 people in for governor, and I say that tongue in cheek, but
you're not too far off.
Part of the primary process in Michigan, I think, hurts us. And while I respect people's rights to say, I want to run, I want to participate, I want to be involved, the lack of consideration for what they bring to the table or the lack of consideration for their overall electability creates an environment where we hurt ourselves because we go so hard against each other. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the good news is with the convention, it's in March 28th. So we're going to know from a Republican standpoint, March 28th, who our nominee is going to be for Secretary of State and Attorney General. Unfortunately, the governor's race goes all the way to August.
Right.
And when you have a late primary like that, it causes a lot of problems for the local clerks that have to run elections and have to reset up for the November, but it also sets up a sprint to the end for those that are the two, assuming it's two nominees, could be three this year, for the governor to get their piece, their information out in a short period of time with early voting, with absentee voting. It's a really short window to really let people know who you are. So I'm all about bringing the primary back a little bit, bringing it back to maybe June, May, possibly. Mm-hmm. And that way, who's ever running, we know who they are, and you're spending less time beating up on each other and more time beating up on those from the other party.
Yeah, us deciding in March is new this year as well for the Attorney General and for Secretary of State.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's good. I think it would be I'd be hard pressed to have to think I'd have to go from now all the way to August to decide to have a few people, the delegates, decide, am I the one moving forward or somebody else?
Yeah.
So this is a good decision, I think, by the party. The Democrats are doing the same thing. I think theirs is in April sometime, and that's I think that gives us plenty of time now to do the things we need to do, to raise the money and represent who we are to the general populace.
Yeah, I think the Democrats have done it for several years. What are your thoughts? And we're going to get into your qualifications, obviously, as we go through this. But what are your thoughts on, in the gubernatorial races, open primaries?
Well, you still have to pick one or the other in the primary. You have to pick either the Democrat ticket or the Republican ticket. But it's open to anybody. If you want to switch over, you can switch over. So if you think you have a candidate you'd like to see go up against your candidate because maybe you didn't like him, you're going to get votes to the person that you think is going to be the weakest. But they have to stay on that side for that entire ballot. I believe, I think it's okay. I think this is the way we do it, and people do get upset though when they're given a ballot and they can only vote Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we had open primaries when I ran for governor, and I was told that the Democrats preferred a certain candidate,
Right. They'll
without
switch
naming
over.
names.
Well, and
It,
they already had their candidate picked, so
well,
they
they
already
knew
knew.
who their candidate was going to
So
be.
they had no reason to vote for the Democrat tickets. They already know who they were.
Yeah, that's my point, and that's why I like for the viewers, a closed primary is if you are a registered Republican, you are given a primary ballot that only shows Republicans. An open primary says that if you are a registered Democrat or a Republican, you can get a ballot and vote for either party. And there's been the accusation that primaries have been influenced dramatically in Michigan, in many other states, by people crossing over to vote to set up the ideal matchup for their party.
And that happens particularly on of a local level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, as we're talking about things, let's talk about something that has come up that I am vehemently opposed to. I don't know what your position is, but the concept of ranked choice voting
Oh,
is one of the greatest threats, in my opinion, to our political process that can exist. And I am against it. The people that are out espousing it as a solution for Michigan have an agenda, and it is not, in my opinion, healthy. I don't know where you stand, but that's my position. What do you say?
well, our Clerks Association in the state of Michigan voted unanimously to not allow, to be against ranked choice voting.
So, what does that mean? The Clerks Association, how many clerks are there?
80, what is there, 84 clerks, county clerks?
83 counties in Michigan.
83,
Yeah.
83, yeah.
So 83 of the people who are in charge of our elections unanimously voted. That's Republican and Democrats
And
voted against.
And it was our legislative committee. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of reasons why this is a bad idea. First off, I don't know if you knew this, Macomb County is the only one in the state of Michigan that's actually run ranked choice voting.
What do you mean by that?
East Point was required by a judge before I was clerk to run a ranked choice ballot.
I was not aware of that. Does
Right.
that still exist today?
No. It worked so well they got rid of it.
Perfect.
After the court order. So first off, there's a lot of consternation about the electronic type, any kind of tabulator voting. There's people out there who want to see just write-in, which I would be against, or just hand ballots. We have paper ballots. Tabulators, I trust. People, I don't. Except now you go to an extreme with ranked choice, because with ranked choice, the computers keep going through and deciding, all right, we're going to drop the bottom one. We're going to move their votes up. And it's very likely, in many cases, some people are going to be totally disenfranchised because through this process, if they didn't rank all the way down the ballot, they only have one choice. When that one choice is gone, their vote doesn't count anymore, and they're not a part of the ongoing ballot process. The other thing is for clerks, and there's many things, is how do you do a hand recount afterwards? If you have a hand recount and then you did this ranked choice, now you've got to be some kind of a crazy mathematician, and you're going to say, all right, we're going to start eliminating. All right, we counted all these. Now we're going to eliminate these, and we got to go through and find all those ballots that were going to be eliminated. Then we're going to run it through again. It would take weeks, months, possibly, with ranked choice voting, with the size cities that we have. If you had to do ranked choice voting and statewide, I just don't know how. And people are not going to, they're going to feel disenfranchised at some point in time. Because they're depending on the computers to come up with their answer. Not a good idea. There's already distrust in elections. I think what we have to really do is look at the systems we have in place and make them better. And that's what we've done in Macomb. As the county clerk, I've looked at the systems that we have, made them better.
Let's talk about this for a bit, because I am working on the citizens only voting initiative. And I have dedicated my time to that.
Shouldn't that be so obvious? Citizens only voting. That's
The fact
crazy that we're even talking about. Why are we even talking about
or the
it?
people that say, well, it's already constitutionally enshrined. Nice spin. No, it's not. Read the proposal and you'll understand the value. But I'm involved with it because I think that the solution to the fears that people have about our elections not being legitimate, that they are disenfranchised to the greatest right that our republic offers them, the opportunity to participate and vote for our leadership, is a very linear solution. And the first step has to be that only citizens vote. You, Tony, brought up two issues in your last answer that the people who are suspect of our elections feel very, very strongly about. And I think it's critical. And now's your time on Beyond the Echo to explain why tabulators are okay, to explain why we don't or should not revert to a paper ballot. Because over time in my lifetime, we had elections. They were for one day, the elections. The participation was higher than it is today. And we had a result traditionally within 48 hours. Today, with all the modern technology, we have lower participation with all the ease of absentee ballots and early voting ballots and all this bullshit, in my view. And I've said it before on the show that elections shouldn't be convenient. They should take effort and they should take intellectual investment to understand and participate. And I'm pontificating a lot, but I want to hear why tabulators are okay. Because, again, those that are suspicious say tabulators are the first breach of election integrity. And then next, I want to hear about early voting and
Sure.
Absentee voting.
All right, so there's a lot there. The thing I want to say is, I would trust tabulators before I trust people. You see what's going on in
even tabulators that have access to the internet.
We were the first ones. Macomb County was the first one to shut off the tabulator, the modems. We shut them off first because there was a distrust. And
that was your order.
That was mine.
You shut off the modems.
Absolutely.
Okay,
we were the first
and you
to do
did
it.
that because of what?
Well, here we were sold on the fact that these modems turned on at 8 o'clock at night and transmitted the data. Well, as I was looking into it and people were concerned, I started doing a little research and I found out no, certain tabulators, ES&S that we use, Dominion is another one, actually turn on when you turn the tabulator on. The modem is turned on just like you would turn your phone on, right? And it's on all the way through. And at 8 o'clock at night, it transmits. We were sold that it turned on at 8 o'clock at night. And everyone was shocked when I found out that, no, that's not the case. It was open all day.
So the suspicion was that people could access the ongoing count and make adjustments.
Well, there was the fact that it was open bothered me. Okay. Now, I also, Verizon was our carrier that we were dealing with these tabulators. We had 380 some tabulators in Macomb County, all transmitting to the county unofficial results. So there's 380 some tabulators that had open modems. A bit of a concern. And I asked Verizon, I wanted to get because nobody had asked for them before me. I wanted to get give me the bills and all the invoices on the tabulators. I want to see when they transmitted, just like you would get your phone bill. You can see phone calls that came in, phone calls.
So there was
a
record that a tabulator would send out.
So we were the only one actually still to this day that did a forensic audit of our county servers and what we have within our county, specifically the county assets. And part of that was we needed to get this information. Verizon wasn't going to give it to us. It was
Under what
crazy.
pretense?
They says, we don't have it. We don't have to give it to you. I go, well, that's when I shut them off, for starters. I said, already we're concerned, right? We're concerned that there's things going on that are not good. I believe in transparency. So I says, shut them off. If we can't get them, I want them shut off. So that was the first.
What time did that happen on election night?
No. We shut them off before election night. The tabulators were not programmed to work with modems after I gave that order.
So, in other words, Macomb County would have been the only county in Michigan in that election whose tabulators were not open and running.
The modems were not running.
I'm sorry, the modems were not open and running.
So we shut them off, and turned out in the audit, there was only one transmission coming out of these tabulators. They were out to the county, which is fine. That's the way they should work. There was nothing nefarious. But I believe in transparency. If there's no transparency, if I can't verify that, if you ask me that question, I can't answer it, there's a problem.
Yep.
So I felt like I had a problem. I'm shutting them off. Well, the county says, hey, how did that go? I says, the results came in a little late. We got a little grief, a little pushback from people because it came in late, but I feel better about it. She says, you know what, they said, you know what, we're going to shut them off across the state too. And so they ended up taking our lead, and they shut off all of them except for the HART tabulators. They told us they were going to shut them all off. They didn't. They shut off everything but the HART tabulators. HART tabulators are, Oakland County's got it.
Who prevented the HART tabulators from being shut off?
The state, the clerks in those counties were saying, hang on, Dominion and ES&S start up in the morning and are there all day. HART starts at 8 p.m., transmits, and then shuts off again. So they felt more comfortable with that one. Although I understand that going forward, they're going to be shut off also.
Was that a political decision, the counties, in your opinion? Or was that simply a clerk from an apolitical perspective, maybe having a different view?
So I had my reasons why, because I couldn't get the Verizon information, right? We were going through a forensic audit. So I had my reasons to shut them off. I'll tell you, after we were done, with proper protocols, it could work. It could work with proper protocols. One is that modems shouldn't turn on until 8 o'clock at night. And I think it gives you another layer of protection if you have proper protocols. There was no protocols put in place. It was just, they turn them on and then they send them over. And we weren't even collecting the tabulator sticks in Macomb County.
Who would have been responsible for putting those protocols in place?
I think I think probably I would say the state needs to have
the Secretary of State?
Secretary of State.
So are you saying that you have protocols that you would implement?
Well, Secretary of State, absolutely. There's a lot going on. We've done so much in Macomb County to bring transparency up, and I can talk about all those items, or most of them. I don't know if I can get to them all, but it only does so much if we're the only ones doing it. The rest of the state, the reason I'm running for Secretary of State is to connect the dots, connect it to the state level, bring it all home so that everyone's on the same page, everyone's got the same protocols, and transparency is very vibrant, where you can see what's happening with each ballot.
What did your forensic audit show you in Macomb County?
Well, there's a few things. Simple things like, hey, the server room, anyone can go in there. All they need is a badge swipe and go in. Now we've set it up where you need two badge swipes, one from person from elections, and perhaps myself that's in another building, or one of my deputies has to let somebody in to go into the server room. That was a simple thing. There was a few things going on, but what we found is there was things like the tabulators have scanning mechanisms in them. Scanning to get results, but also scanning, they can keep a PDF of that ballot and give you a PDF of the results. How did that ballot score in that tabulator? That's a pretty good thing to know, right?
You would think that would be a good thing to know.
They were almost all across the state shut off. I turned them on. And anybody wants to FOIA information, we got them right there. You don't have to go through an expensive recount. We've got the PDFs. the PDF of the ballot, the PDF of how it was scored, and we got the tape from the tabulator that election night before everything was transmitted that says what had happened. Do they all match? That's pretty good information to know. For those people that are
Do you
concerned.
actually, when you did your forensic audit, did you do overlays of your tape tabulator to your modems as part of the audit? So all three levels match?
So there is only so far we can go because we're looking at our server. To do a complete forensic audit across the entire county, across the entire state would have been incredibly expensive. And we were looking for holes that we might be able to say, hey, there's a problem. Let's pursue it. In Macomb County, there wasn't any holes. And that's why I really believe that tabulators are accurate. It's the people behind them that could be the problem. And I say
How do you
that,
vet those people?
well, each county, each municipality vets these people that are working. And what's interesting, I was talking to Pastor Lorenzo Sowell the other day, and he's got some circuit court cases of people in Detroit that testified that they never, homeless people, I don't know if they were all homeless, that never voted.
Yep.
Yet they were registered to vote and they had voted.
Well, I've spoken on this
And I
show.
shouldn't say they voted. They didn't vote. Somebody voted on their behalf.
I've said on this show the QVF, the Qualified Voter File, in Macomb County, in conjunction with a very active group of what I'm going to refer to as patriots, we monitored the QVF files every single day and questioned Secretary of State Benson because in several instances there were individual names that appeared as many as that I am aware of 37 times. Now, the secretary blew me off and said, that's the system working versus a threat. But they stopped publishing the QVF the next day to avoid the questions, which led me to being skeptical. Lorenzo Sewell has a point.
He does.
And I don't know that it's a point that Democrats cheat, or it might be implied that it's Democrats, but Republicans could do the same thing.
So, yeah, if there's holes in the system,
how do you close them?
They need to be closed multiple ways. There's always going to be some method of cheating somewhere. I don't know that you're going to get around it completely, but if you get rid of tabulators, you've just opened the door, the Pandora's. Because here's what
people understand that. How does a tabulator?
I've done my ballot. When I put in a tabulator, it's scored. It's done. It's in the system. It's locked down. Now what do? I give it to a person. Do I put it in a box? It goes in the back room somewhere. Somebody counts it. They say, well, we'll have plenty of Republicans and Democrats in the same room. Really?
We know that's not the case.
Right. You're trying to get enough people right now to oversee. Every tabulator needs to have one Democrat and one Republican at least, opposing parties, major parties there to oversee things. Do you think that really happens everywhere? It doesn't. It needs to. It's the law. But there's not. They claim that there's not enough people. In Macomb, I trained over 700 new election workers because I wanted plenty of Democrats and I wanted plenty of Republicans to oversee these elections. And I had one clerk.
You actually did your job as a clerk?
Well, that really wasn't my job. It's the local clerk's job. But I knew that in the northern part of Macomb County, there wasn't enough Democrats, and I knew in the southern part of Macomb County, there wasn't enough Republicans. So I went out and got the diversification of people, trained them, and had a database. I had one clerk the night before the election, needed 35 more election workers. Now, had we not done that program, they would have been short. And when you're short people, mistakes happen. When you're short people, the eyes aren't on the system anymore.
So what you're saying, and again, really important that the viewers understand this, the accusations that came out of Detroit that a certain party's, what is the phrase that they oversee, that you said there should be a Democrat and a Republican. What are they called?
Just they're election workers.
So in Detroit, they said that one party was not represented, and yet the election goes on,
Right.
and the suspicion expands.
Anytime you have lack of transparency, you start having problems. As soon as you have, I don't, there's probably things, the more transparent I make it, the more I see that, hey, we could do things better. We need to do things better. Lack of transparency, you cover it up. What do I mean by that? Are the pizza boxes on windows? Was anything wrong going on the other side? I don't know. It sure is a bad look, though. Sure, it certainly is a bad look when they were putting pizza boxes on the window so the public couldn't see. I can't claim anything because I wasn't there. But what I can claim is it's a bad look, and transparency is the key to everything.
Should the state mandate that the only election voting areas that can be open are equally represented?
What's the law? It's the law.
Well,
but if you can't find, here's the thing:
if you can't find or you don't allow,
well, how do you prove that somebody's a Republican? How do you prove someone's a Democrat? The party leaders are supposed to get a list of all the Democrats and all the Republicans. So the Republican Party sees all the Republicans. Are these your people? The heads of each county are supposed to look at that list and say, wait a minute, this person's not a Republican. Are they doing their job? I can't answer that.
Should there be something implemented, or could there be something implemented? Because for me, again, I think that voting is the greatest right and privilege that you have as an American citizen. I think that it should be protected beyond reproach. Like you, Tony, I recognize that there's going to be a small percentage of people who
we want to make it as small as possible. We want to make it so that we can catch them if they do things wrong.
Didn't you have a case in Macomb County where you caught people? And what was the outcome of that case?
So there's a couple things that happened in Macomb County. One is we had 4 people in one of our cities vote twice. And
intentionally or unintentionally?
Well, that's not my job to determine that.
What did the judge say?
In one case, the person was actually prosecuted. So I think maybe I'm one of the few in the state that actually had somebody actually prosecuted for voting twice. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. It's against the law. My job was to turn it over to the prosecutor, which I did, and we moved on from there.
Yeah, I again, on the show, when I went to vote in Bloomfield Township, there was a group of people actually that were at the window saying that they needed to re-vote. They had cast a vote in the early election and had changed their mind.
Oh, yeah.
How the hell does that happen? How can that be right or allowed?
It's not allowed.
Well, they were doing it in Bloomfield Township because they said there was a form they had to fill out, and they were actually giving them a ballot to recast, and they set them on the side. I watched it happen.
Interesting, because their first ballot, if it was on you're saying on election day?
It was the day that I was voting, so it's election day.
So their absentee ballots, I'm assuming that's what you have been already in the process of being counted. There is no second ballot. It was too late. So I'm not sure what transpired there, but
either am I. I just know that they were saying that they were changing their ballot. They were there to change and they said, "Oh, you can do that."
And that's the problem when you absentee vote early. I didn't mean to do it that way, right?
Yeah.
Or there might be something, but the once they start counting the ballots, it's too late.
Would you restrict the absentee ballots?
Well, the law is the law, right? The law is the law. It wouldn't be something that I would say that we can control.
Let me rephrase, ask a better question, because the law is the law. There was a constitutional amendment that was passed in Michigan that pisses me off about absentee voting. We're stuck with it. when people, and I'm not trying to set you up with a trick question, would it be your personal preference, exclusive from the law, to
Okay,
restrict absentee
so that's a fair
ballots?
question. I would say with early voting into a tabulator, I think that is the most secure way of getting your vote, getting it into the tabulator, getting it counted. When it goes absentees, there's a lot of things that can possibly go um, unaccounted for on the absentee arena. Does it happen? I guess it's going to have to. Pastor Soul out of Detroit is making that claim right now. So these are things that we have to take a close look at. The signature verification is so important. These people that are voting for others, is there people inside that are allowing these
Maybe
things
an
to go
ID
through?
to vote,
Well, yeah, but if they're voting absentee,
or there's no
there's no
confirmation. Yeah.
right. So I think, yeah, I think that there's very few reasons why somebody would need to absentee vote at this point in time with early voting. You got 9 days of early voting. I would even expand it if that were the case. If it was a choice of going back and having early voting last longer and get rid of absentee ballots, I'd be for it.
How come we need early voting?
Well, you know, I wasn't for it at first, but I am
I'm
now.
not for it. So
And I'll tell you why I'm for it, because those that, like yourself, that like to vote in the tabulator, and that's a growing number, um, come out on election day and they look at the line. They say, honey, they're in the car together. It's just 2 votes. Let's go to dinner. I'm not going to stand in line for an hour and a half, and they leave. And I think when you look at the 2020 election, that may have happened because there's so many people that came on election day to vote into a tabulator, and were probably disappointed that the line was so long they decided not to do it. So
did you
I
experience that in Macomb County?
I think well, I got elected in 2020, but what we found in the last election in 2024.
Maybe your opposition left because they said, Forlini's
Yeah, I
not
hope.
that bad a guy.
I'm sure that happened a lot. But what I saw for the presidential election, we had 9 days of early voting, and guess what? They were packed every single day. And on election day, it was packed again. So I think there's a real desire by people to have early voting. And I'll just say from for those that, like yourself, like to vote into the tabulator, that is a benefit, because now you can go with no wait, usually no wait, and get your ballot
So you
counted.
early vote, it goes immediately into a tabulator.
Yes.
That's the security that you're referencing.
Yes.
How do you,
Now think about this. Go to some of these places that we're maybe not as trustful about, and you go into early vote, and you got your ballot, and you're not putting it in the machine, right?
that dog won't hunt.
Right? So you're going to put it maybe in a Dropbox. I don't know, whatever system they might have. Which one would you trust more? I would trust that tabulator that got scanned in, and a tabulator that scans the ballot and shows how it got scored.
Yeah,
I trust that more.
see, I'm similar to you. I trust the tabulator. I don't necessarily understand completely the modem and the transmission. I find it really odd that on election day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the polls are open till 9 at night, they're calling candidates. And that reeks to me.
Right.
And part of it is my own ignorance. I'm willing to say I don't understand how they can do that.
Right. So the tabulators are good for a lot of reasons. It's, they're going in the machine. The machine only runs, during the days that they're running them. It gets recorded. The machine records it. If there's anything happening in between, if somebody's changing the codes, we hash validate in Macomb. Again, I'm not sure if we're the only one that does that, but we actually found 2 clerks that changed the tabulator settings a month before the election, because we're able to see it in the coding. This is the work that we do that's really unusual. we saw the coding and we went ahead and we saw that, made them come back during the Board of Canvass and rerun all these absentee ballots that were secured after the election.
Did it change the outcome?
It changed the numbers, but my slogan has been since day one: every vote matters, every vote counts. I should have brought it in. I got a Yeti that says it on the side, and all my main people got one of these. Every vote matters, every
You
vote
bought all
counts.
your guys a Yeti?
What's that?
You bought all your guys a Yeti?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a
Can
big
I
team.
work for you?
I didn't have a big team like you. So my team, there was a few people. It was affordable, and because that was my theme, and when I was a state rep, I used to have my campaign stuff up on the wall. This is what I promised. It's a constant reminder. When I was a township supervisor, that was up on the wall. That's what I promised. And as a state or as a county clerk, every vote matters, every vote counts.
Well, it's interesting because I did roughly 111 events around the state for the 24 election. And I wasn't part of the Trump force or any. I did them because people were willing to listen, and I was willing to get out and talk about the value of voting and offer who I thought people should vote for. And I often heard, my vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't matter. Think of the opposite side of that. And I happen to believe that in 2024, Republicans participating in the election made it too big to rig.
Yeah. And let me
So
say
their
this.
votes did count.
It does count. And you know what? And my stances have never been partisan. My stances have always been, I represent Americans. And I really believe that.
Well, that's what you should do.
Well, 100%. And so, and that's why my first election, so I go back to when I was a township supervisor, very transparent, did everything by the book, made sure the public was involved in everything. We went with live cameras during the time I was a township supervisor. And my first election, I barely won against an incumbent. My second election was the year that I was running against Obama. I wasn't running against my opponent because of straight party voting. Obama really got the vote out. And I actually won that election. I think I was the only Republican that had a race in Macomb County as a supervisor and won.
Wow.
And then I went to the state rep. Same thing. I went up against an incumbent Democrat, and because of my reputation of just doing the right thing, I beat an incumbent Democrat again to be the state rep and served for 6 years until I was term limited. Same thing for clerk. My reputation of just doing the right thing transferred over to this election as clerk, and on a countywide basis, on a county that was leaning blue for many years. That year, I beat the incumbent Democrat by 1,500 votes. But doing all the things that we did, that I think we all believe are the right things with elections, the right things with transparency, the right things treating everybody like a very valued citizen. We went from a 1,500 person win to 80,000.
That's incredible. I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. Every step along your political career, because I used to live in Macomb County, I had an opportunity.
We got to make Macomb your home again.
Yeah. Well, I'd consider
Go
that.
finish what you were saying. I'm sorry.
No, every step along the way, I've actually voted for you in every position you have held.
Really?
In public office.
That's good to know.
And I did it.
You're a smart man. You know that?
I've been accused of worse. I did it, Tony, and I say this as a compliment. You and I are acquaintances, and I think there's a level of mutual respect. What I've always admired about you is that you're a straight shooter.
Yeah.
And when you think I have said something that you disagreed with or was wrong, you took the time, you cared enough to point it out. And not only to point it out, to provide a solution. And I think that the Secretary of State's role should not be partisan.
I agree.
It should be purity and purity of thought, because elections, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. That's why we have them. What we don't want to do is say somebody won because somebody cheated.
Oh, it's horrible. In any event, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
Or even the assumption of cheating. You should be able to prove that every election who the winner and who the loser was.
It should be reasonable to challenge and to validate, in my opinion.
Well, when I get in there, I'm telling you, we are going to change things so that there's more transparency. You need that QVF, you should be able to view it. You should be able to view the poll books the day after the election. But once the election is certified and everything, that poll book, whoever voted on that day, should be locked up. Should be, when I say locked up, preserved.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be deleted.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you. At this point, I want to ask you a couple of things, because this is not a general election for you. You get selected by delegates. And I'm going to tell you, your work's cut out for you, because a couple of your competitors are really good at working the delegates. And they don't necessarily have the experience that you have. That doesn't mean that they haven't participated. That I'm not saying they are not qualified, because you could argue, what makes you qualified? What made me qualified to run for governor?
Your background.
Well, and so again, I'm not saying that they're not qualified, but because you're such a straight shooter, you're going to struggle with delegates, because you're not going to kiss their ass. You're going to tell them the right way to do it. How are you going to overcome that?
Well, you know what? I think the delegates have come a long way from 4 years ago.
Agreed.
I think there was a lot of ideology and a lot of suspicion, and they realized that we didn't do very well. And so I threw my hat in the ring because I felt like I could benefit the top of the ticket. My reputation of being a clerk and winning by the amount that we won in Macomb County, the third largest county in the state of Michigan, the reddest county in the state of Michigan, which we couldn't have said that 10 years ago. But we've
traditionally it was a Reagan Democrat county.
It was a Reagan Democrat, but they voted. It was blue up until the time I won 5 years ago. So I think the delegates have to realize it's not a March convention they got to worry about. It's the November election they have to worry about. And we got to put our best candidate forward, and that's why I step forward. I'm willing to step in. You know what? I'll tell you something. I'm going to take a pay cut if I win. I'm going to take a pay cut to be Secretary of State. But it's not about the money. It's not about the money at all. It's about doing what's right by Michigan, doing what's right by my parents and by my kids, and having a state that we can all be proud of. That's my only concern. And if there is somebody out there that I think can do a better job, I'd step aside and say, go for it. Because I really, truly believe we need to take it back. And we can't score any points in March when we win, or whoever wins. We only score points if we hold the ball in November and carry the ball. You cannot score points in any game unless you control the ball. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is help us control the ball and do what's right by Michigan, for Democrats and Republicans.
So if you were to have this moment to talk to about 250,000 people, and you say, what does Tony Forlini bring to the table as Secretary of State? And you're talking to delegates, and in turn hoping the delegates bring that message forward to the people as well.
Well, the one thing that I bring as Secretary of State is a success story from being clerk. The success of all the reforms he did. We're the only one.
Have any of the other candidates been clerks?
No. Nobody's ever run an election. Nobody's ever won an election as big as I have. One ran a county commission seat and lost. The other one is a school board member. Good people. Let me not just...
They're courageous. They are good people.
Yes, they're good people.
They become acquaintances, and ideally will be friends at some point.
Yeah, we're all on the same team. I think we all want the same thing. The only difference is I've been able to prove that I can get it done. And I was also a legislator. Listen, let's not forget this. Jocelyn Benson never ran an election before she was Secretary of State, nor was she ever a legislator. So the work that she's done stays within, she works within her own group, not the legislatures. We need to change laws. We need to get things done. There's campaign finance issues we got to take care of. And you know what? There's offices across the state that have to be run in an efficient manner. We won 2 national awards as the county clerk. And by the way, these national awards, I didn't think much of them. And there's people that says, well, the clerk's office won awards before. No, they didn't. They paid for awards before. When I realized we had a wall full of awards and realized every one of them cost us $50, I had them all taken down. I says, we're going to earn our awards, not pay $50 to NACO or whoever it is and get an award. 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that says we're the best at something.
You're not going to buy your participation trophy?
No, I'm not going to buy any participation trophy. So when we found out that we had won 2 national awards, I didn't think much of it. I'll be honest. I had very low esteem for that kind of stuff. But then, because I wasn't going to pay for it. No, we're going to fly you down to San Antonio and we're going to present it down there. I said, okay, all right. So let's go. So we went down there. I entered into this room bigger than Coble Hall. It was huge, filled with people, 7,000 people. Found out there was 5,000 municipality units of some sort that were eligible for an award. They were giving out 28 awards. We were the only one in the state of Michigan to win 1.
Has the state won one previously?
I don't know. We were the only one in the country to win 2. Of all the different municipalities, we're the only one to have won 2. What were they for? Operational efficiency, how we run our office. We track everything in our office. When somebody comes in the front door, to the time they go to our counter, under 4 minutes. From the time they get to the counter to the time they leave, under 10 minutes. So in under 15 minutes, and that's on the long end, really, that's how much time they spend in our office. That's how every Secretary of State should run. The other thing we do is we shut off voicemail as soon as I came into the office. Let's get rid of it. We're getting rid of voicemail. Everyone's eyes lit up. They couldn't believe it. What are you talking about? We have to have it. No, you don't. We shut it off, and we have a computer system holding everybody accountable. When they pick up the phone, how long they stay on the phone. Does the phone ring on their desk and they don't pick up? We know that also. And we'll address it with people. As a result of good management and keeping track of things, we have a 98% record of people calling, us picking up during the day, answering the question, and we're done with it. As opposed to in the past, they leave us a voicemail. We have to take the time to listen to the voicemail. We return the phone call. They don't know who's calling. They let it go to voicemail. And that waste of time keeps happening. So because of that, we're efficient. We turn the Register of Deeds office within 24 to 48 hours. We turn these deeds over. It used to be weeks and weeks. In the CPLs, there used to be a 3-week wait to get an appointment. Mm-hmm. Same day when you come in. Same statistics. Less than 4-minute wait. Less than 10 minutes, and you're out the door.
So what you're proposing is something that most people in Michigan have never experienced in government: efficiency and accountability.
That's right. And
you mean value for their dollar?
And we're innovative. In the jury room, we changed the jury room system. Even though postage rates went up, we cut postage rates by 46%. That's crazy. They recognize. Well, we went to a different system in how we notify people, and we went to a postcard system as opposed to this long letter that the judge wrote that didn't need to happen. So we send postcards out. We're getting better responses from the postcards than we did the letter, and we've done just little things throughout the office to make life better for the jurors, to make it a positive experience, and I think that's what I think I can bring to the Secretary of State: a positive experience for the employees as well as the citizens that come in. Because if everyone feels good about it, you're going to enjoy coming to work.
I was just going to say, I believe that people actually want to do a good job.
100%.
And if you create an environment that allows them to be successful, that their performance goes up dramatically.
They're going to feel good about themselves. They're going to treat people with more respect. And that was something that it took a little time, because there was be some difficult customers sometimes, right? And I would go out in the lobby. They were trying to protect me. No, I go around and I'd sit down and say, hey, have a seat. What's going on? Just talk to them. And they'd tell you what they were telling you. In the meantime, I take their paperwork and I have somebody take care of it. And then when it's all done, I bring it back, say, everything good? He goes, well, thank you. And I get a hug. That's all they cared about. They wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
Took a couple extra minutes, but it's worth it.
Now, here's a tough question for you, because I always prided myself in my industry. I had the lowest turnover in my industry with my employees. And I'm not an easy guy to work for because I want to be efficient. I want people to be accountable. I want people to be high performing. And that's what it was all about. What was the turnover in your office before you got there, and what's the turnover today?
Well, that's a tough question because when I took over, it was in the middle of COVID, and so who's even working for me? Where are these people at? Within 3 weeks, we brought them in, and we lost a couple because they thought, all right, we're going to keep working from home. We're coming in. I had one person say, well, I suffer from anxiety. Are you home? You're suffering from anxiety? She says, oh yeah. I said, when you come in Monday morning, that anxiety is going to go away. You watch. And it did. You got to get back into the swing of things. You got to make it. And so it was tough for some people. And there wasn't a lot of hiring done before that because of COVID. And so I had an ability to bring in a few people to start getting things going. So it was a little unusual for me. On the court end of it, I'm the clerk of the court. We were down pretty bad as far as people that were judicial court clerks. And we went ahead and upped our hiring standards. And in a time when we really needed to get more people, I didn't care. We needed to get them trained up quickly. So I brought people in that were exceptional that we thought, well, maybe they're too good. No such thing. We brought in really good people. And what normally took 5 years to train them to be a judicial court clerk, we cut that curve down to 1 year, got them up there, competent people that can do the work that really is very difficult work.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of the organization we have. Do we have turnover? Yeah, I think like anybody else. We hold our people accountable, and we the team I got superstars right now. I'm really fortunate. Really
and you
fortunate.
think you'll be able to bring that across the state?
You know what? That's the goal, right? If you don't try, how is it ever going to happen? We have a record of success in how we did it. I think I need to be not so much in the office, but out of the office, out in the field, out seeing where the rubber hits the road. And that's kind of my plan, is to be out there and get a good feel for it, have good people back at the office that we can trust, go to work every day, make it happen. And I can do that. I don't have any young kids at home. I don't have that obligation. I do have a wife of 40 years, but
She's a nice wife, by the way.
She's a great wife. She's a great, putting up with me all these years. Are you kidding me? So it's really it's a wonderful challenge. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Could I stay as a county clerk and be very happy? I'd be incredibly happy. Are you kidding me? We got it running like a fiddle right now, which is great. But now let's take this at a bigger level, a bigger challenge. I think we can get the job done. It's not going to be easy.
So your vision, if I may, is to replicate the accountability, the efficiency, the common sense, the integrity that you've created in Macomb County across Michigan.
That's my vision. That's my goal. And for the employees to enjoy coming to work. Let's not forget about that. All those things sound good, and it might scare an employee, but my employees enjoy coming to work. Just you look at our Facebook page on, or even our YouTube with the Macomb County Clerk Register of Deeds office, the videos we do, the things that we do to make the work an enjoyable place. We take mundane work and make it fun. And the numbers prove themselves out. I mean, we have no wait times. We have turnaround times that are 24 to 48 hours, even in the courts. Our elections, we've held a high standard for elections. And I think it shows. We changed the campaign finance within our office. We're one of the first in the state to actually computerize that, to take the workload, the mundane workload off of the employees, and give the candidates a very nice platform to report their stuff and make it easier for them, so they didn't make as many mistakes, so they didn't have to pay fines, because we have a system in place that'll correct it before they turn it into us. Just better government.
Well, from my perspective, we need better government, because I happen to think Michigan's in trouble in a lot of areas, and I talk about that often. If you were to identify the biggest misconception about Tony Forlini to the delegates and the people in Michigan, the biggest misconception as you enter this statewide race, what would that be?
Well, sometimes they say, well, he's too moderate. And I talked to some of the people up in Lansing that I worked with before. It says, "Who is saying that about you?" Because I was brutal on budgets. I was brutal when I was in Lansing. But in the public,
brutal in a positive way.
In a positive, well, for me, it was a positive way. Cutting budgets, cutting costs, streamlining government. For the people that it affected, it was brutal. For me, it was my job, right? And so, from the perspective of the public, I do come across as a moderate, because I do represent everybody. I represent everybody, and so when delegates might say, "Well, but maybe he's not going to be tough enough," well, they're talking about the wrong guy. I do it with a smile. We get it done. Just like the person that had anxiety, we got her into the office Monday. I didn't mandate it. I just told her, you'll enjoy it when you come to work on Monday, because we're bringing you in.
Yeah.
It's just how you handle things, and from a public perspective, I think that's what the general public likes. I think delegates like a good fight. I like winning, and we win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's so interesting to me because, again, new to the political field, you've got way more experience in it than I did. I was shocked that people would question the fact that I would say, look, when they'd ask me about laws that were in place, the governor has to honor the laws that are in place. They just can't unilaterally say no. They have to live by the law. It's not their job to make the laws. Their job is to actually lead everybody. And I think this partisan stuff that the press loves to feed on.
Oh, sure.
They love splitting people apart. They love, in particular in governance, we got to have people that are elected in office that do the right thing. Don't compromise to do 50% wrong because somebody opposes the right thing. That they do the right thing for all the people of Michigan. And that doesn't mean, I hate the term rhino within the Republican Party. It pisses me off.
Give me what does that mean every time? What does that mean? Specifically, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean as it reflects to you or me or anybody? Just tell me the issue that you're causing, that's causing you to say that.
Right.
Don't just throw a word out there that means nothing until there's a real reason behind it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a stain that needs to be washed off, and that it's usually thrown out by people that don't understand or don't know and aren't willing to educate themselves. And again, the only way Michigan's going to move forward is if we represent everybody, if we are not willing to accept the status quo, if we're not willing to accept what a lot of politicians say is Michigan's doing the best that it can, and that we need to, tax more and regulate more and incentivize with tax dollars more. That's all a bunch of bunk. And it is drawing us down. It is tearing us apart. I like your message, Tony. I appreciate it. And
it's honest.
The fact that you back it up with results, is pretty incredible. So now that we've talked about the biggest misconception, give me the converse of that. What should people look forward to and expect from Tony Forlini?
Well, I think you can look at my history and know what to expect. When we take something over, we're gonna look at it, and we're gonna look at it hard. As a township supervisor, my finance director came to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna have to raise taxes." Why is that? Well, we balanced our budget last year barely, and the state cut us. I think they said $100,000. So we're gonna have to raise that millage just to cover it to stay even. I thought, well, hang on. Let's look at the budget. I'm telling you, this is pretty tough. When I say brutal, it was brutal. I mean, page by page, line by line. I asked one of my employees, what's this $1,000 in office supplies? Well, pencils and pens. Really? All right, I'm gonna make it $100. If you run short, let me know, and I go to the next one. And guess what? At the end of that year, we had $1 million surplus with no cut in services.
Well, the excuse with government, and I call it a lack of knowledge or a lack of attention to detail, is to raise taxes. And Lansing is one of the worst at it.
Well, if you look at a heat chart, before we had term limits, the money that came into Lansing was spread out across the state. And then I was looking at a heat map because of term limits, since term limits, and all the focus went to Lansing. The heat map of where the money was spent.
What is a heat map for our viewers?
Well, it's just a way of seeing where the money went. So in the past, it went across the state.
Where donations are?
Not donations, actual tax dollars, your tax dollars, where they're being spent. They're spent on bureaucrats in Lansing.
Got it.
They're spent on people, on projects in Lansing, because the only people left after the politicians are gone are the bureaucrats. And I'll give you a good example of this. There was a program that somebody came in, and I was on appropriations, and I think it was the LARA budget that I was chair of, and they were coming in, and this really very articulate, well-polished individual came in and says, Representative, if you see our budget, it's actually, we've decreased it over the last couple of years. It's been really tight, but even though things went up, we kept our budgets within the right areas, and we actually reduced it the last 3 years. I said to myself, you know what? This is the first guy I've seen come in here and actually reduce their budget. All we're looking for, Representative, is to go up 3% this year to kind of make up where we left off. Seems reasonable. I looked at it and I says, nobody else came to me and had a reduction. After he left, did a little bit more research, come to find out that department was supposed to be disbanded after 3 years. And they told the last rep before me, we're going to reduce the budget. We don't want to X right here. We're going to just go down a little bit over these next few years, and then we can end the program. So the rep before me didn't translate that to me. And so I was given
a line of goods.
A line of goods. I'm glad you used the word goods. And so we eliminated it. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the problem with term limits, is that institutional knowledge that's gone out the window. And that's why I think it's important to have somebody that understands elections at the local level to be able to bring those results and bring those reforms to the state level.
Is it a problem of having term limits, or is it the term within the term limits?
I think it was the term within the term limits. I think they fixed some of this, what was it, 2 years ago? I think they fixed it. Now you can go out, I think it's 12 years, which outlives most of the bureaucrats. And so these reps can go there without thinking. The first term, you're trying to figure out where the bathroom's at. The second term, you find your feet, you're starting to go somewhere. The third term, people are looking on the other side of you to see who's next. That's what 3 2-year terms represent. Now you go out 12 years, they can't look over your shoulder anymore. You still might be there. So I think the 12 years I'm going to say it's probably I would have gone for 14, But I think 12 was a good sweet spot. I think we're going to see good results from that.
Yeah, I agreed with the expansion and had several spirited conversations because I disagreed with how they structured it,
Right.
even with the improvement in the number of years. And again, it's the details, and I'm hopeful that you're right. I'm not sure that the expansion is still correct. Um,
There's nothing correct about anything we do. It's an ideology you move forward with. Is it going to be
Fair
better?
enough.
It's going to be better. Is it going to be worse? We'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Tony, I really enjoy these conversations. It's different, and I'll tell you how it's different. And your institutional knowledge on display should really be considered by our delegates. And again, the other candidates, one in particular, is a very, very dear friend. I mentioned to them that if I ran for governor, I didn't want them to run for Secretary of State because I thought they would be better in a different position. And in part, implying because of your institutional experience. We can't have what we have today in Lansing ever again, in my view. Politicized people making bad decisions that are political in nature, that threaten the integrity of what our republic stands for and what our state's for. So,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
I work hard for that reputation. I work hard for the comments like that because I really believe we have a wonderful state. My dad immigrated from Italy in the 50s. This is the land of opportunity. I have a pack that's called the Land of Opportunity, really because of my dad. Here he comes here. This was the land of opportunity. And here it is. My son, who went to Kettering, got a full ride scholarship, wasn't able to find jobs when he was graduating. This is back during the Granholm years. Couldn't find jobs in Michigan. Had to leave the state. And that's why that's why I ran for state rep. How can this possibly be? Where my dad came here as an immigrant, just give him a shovel, let him get to work, and found that to be opportunity. And I've got an educated son that's got to go to another state.
Yeah.
It's pathetic that we did that to our state, and that's why I've stepped forward. That's why I'm stepping forward. It's not about me. Like I said, I'm going to take a pay cut. It's about, I love to get my son that's in Dallas back to Michigan.
Tony, again, thank you for today so much. And I hope that people have a better understanding, not only of the challenges of the job, but the value that experience and the results that you have proven in Macomb County that you bring to Lansing. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you to maybe make a financial contribution, maybe to work on your campaign to show their support? What do they got to do?
Well, for starters, our website is anthonyforlini.com. You can go there. Certainly, this is a very, very expensive proposition of taking on the Secretary of State's office. And if you want to, if you want to see your candidate in there, you need to provide support because it's a very expensive race to run. Our Facebook is Forlini for Us, Forlini, or it's Anthony Forlini. We just changed Anthony Forlini for Us. The for is FOR, us, and follow us. See what we're doing. We need volunteers across the state. We need people that can help. That maybe you don't have the financial well-being, but maybe you can give a little bit of time, helping me get delegates in line so that we can do a great job in November and bring the top of the ticket even higher up. So that's my hope. And my cell phone number, if you'd like to call, is 586-275-7703. Love to hear from you.
Great. Well, folks, there you've heard it from Anthony Forlini, candidate for Secretary of State. And we've had another great episode of Beyond the Echo. Appreciate your support, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Echo. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop us a comment and share the podcast with your friends. Stay connected, and keep the conversation going by following us on social media. Until next time, keep exploring beyond the echo.